Let us begin with a prayer. This prayer is from the Upanishad. It must be familiar to some of you as you have been studying the Upanishad. Om Apyayantu mamangani Vak pranaschakshushrothram Atha balam indriyani cha sarvani Sarvam brahmopanishadam Maham brahma nirakuryam Mama brahma nirakarot Anirakaranamastu Anirakaranam me astu Tadatmani nirateya upanishatsu dharmaste mayi santu Te mayi santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. I pray to the Divine Lord that all aspects of my personality, including the body, mind, sense organs, the prana shakti, vital force, may all become strong and function in perfect harmony. This whole physical universe, visible to the mind through the sense organs, is nothing other than the ultimate reality described as Brahman in the Upanishads. May I accept this truth and proceed in this life to experience this truth. May I not reject this truth. May I not reject this truth, and may there be no rejection at all. As I am engaged in experiencing this ultimate reality, may all the virtues described in the Upanishads come to me and reside in me. May all the virtues such as truthfulness, strength, purity, straightforwardness, may all those virtues come to me and reside in me. Om peace, may there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika shanti, may there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. Adi bhautika shanti, and may there be peace everywhere in nature. Adi daivika shanti. For some time now, we have been studying the teachings of Astavakra in the form of conversation between Astavakra and Janaka. Janaka was a king. He also was a Brahmagyani. And in this conversation, we see what does it take to achieve knowledge of the self. Vedanta and the Upanishad, they declare that we are not the body, mind and sense organs which we think we are, but we are that ultimate truth, Brahman. There is only one reality. There are not many, and we are that one. In the form of several of the Mahavakyas, Tattvamasi, that thou art, in the Chandogya Upanishad, Aham Brahmasmi, in the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, those convey the ultimate truth of the Vedanta, of the Upanishads. Now, Janaka and Astavakra, they both had this experience. Astavakra from birth, he was a Brahmagyani. So the last topic that we studied was description of a Brahmagyani. It's really not possible to know what happens in a Brahmagyani's mind because it is an intensely personal experience. But as much as can be seen from outside by the onlookers, just as in the case of a Sthita Prajna, a person of steady wisdom described in the in the Bhagavad Gita, second chapter. Similarly, Brahmajnanis also they are at a wholly different level of consciousness. You can only speculate about that and see from virtues in them, their behavior, their speech, as much as can be seen from outside. One such thing is freedom from fear. If a Brahmajnani has no fear, all ordinary jivas beings have some kind of fear. Rarely do we come across a person who has no fear at all. Very rare. Some kind of fear is there in our minds. Fear of poverty, fear of ill health, fear of losing a job, fear of losing something that is dear to us, and so many different kinds of fear afflict all beings. But a Brahmajnani has no fear because, as the Upanishad says, all fear arises from outside the self, from a second object, second person, second object. If there is only one, then there is nothing to be afraid of. There is no second entity to be afraid of. A Brahmajnani is alone in the sense, he is the Brahman, ultimate reality, there is no other object besides the Atman. For such a person, there can be no fear at all. In the Upanishad, Brahmarupananda Upanishad, we hear the famous sentence, fear comes from the perception of the second. Anything other than the self, if it is perceived, from that one may anticipate some fear. Fear of pain, fear of loss. But there is no other second entity. Ekameva advitiyam, one alone, there is no second. Brahman, infinite pure consciousness. How can there be any second besides infinity? So there is no fear. Vitiyadvai bhayam bhavati. From the second, fear comes. But a Brahmajnani is established in unitary consciousness. Only pure ocean of infinite vast expanse of pure consciousness, Satchidananda, there is nothing else. Absorbed in the infinite bliss of Ananda of the self. So there cannot be any fear for such a person. That was the last topic we studied. In the next topic, Astavakra describes how a Brahmajnani has given up all attachment to anything other than the self and has dissolved the ego and free from attachment of anything other than the self. The whole world, which is so real to the ordinary person, is only a dream-like reality for the Brahmajnani. It's like a movie happening on a screen in the movie house. It appears to be so real, but there is nothing there. Only shadow, light and darkness, color, sound. There is no substance there. In the same way, for a Brahmajnani, this whole world is only an appearance. There is no reality to it. There is no substance to it. For such a person, has reached such a state of unitary consciousness, by rejecting the reality of the whole universe, one's own body, mind, ego, sense organs, sense objects, none of this is actually real. They appear to be there, but they are not there. How is it possible? If something is not there, how can we see that one? It is being seen. We cannot deny that the world is real. We are experiencing it through the sense organs every moment. To explain that one, Astavakra gives several examples. How a Brahmajnani experiences only one reality, unity consciousness, nothing besides the self, well, the world seems to exist. So one example that Astavakra gives is this whole universe uses the word Sanghata. The word Sanghata must be familiar to you from the study of the Bhagavad Gita, 13th chapter. Sanghata means something that is composite in nature, not one. Something that is made up of two or more elements, components. The moment you see a Sanghata, anything that is made up of one or more things, then the law of nature is that this Sanghata, the combination, composite thing, entity, is sure in course of time to break down into its components and disappear. If you take the example of anything like an automobile, car, it's not one thing, it's made up of thousands of parts. Thousands of parts are there that go into the making of an automobile. These parts are made in different countries of different materials, they are put together and we have the car. It's a composite entity. What happens to the car? It functions for some time, then gradually the parts fall apart. The combination fails to function. The whole combination as a unit car functioning efficiently for some time gradually loses its efficiency, eventually ceases functioning, and all the parts go back into their material elements. The same way this whole universe, Astavakra says, is a Sanghata. It's not one thing. It's made up of the 5 elements and many more components. Say there is one verse in chapter 5 of Astavakra Samhita where Astavakra says, Nate sangosti kenapi kim shuddhastyaktamicchasi. Sangatu velayam kurvan evameva layam raja. Layam raja means dissolve the ego and the reality of this world, of this personality. Dissolves. Because it is Sanghata. It's not one thing, made up of many elements. According to the Sankhya philosophy, everything in this world is made up of 24 cosmic principles. Sri Ramakrishna refers to them in the Gospel. Everything is made up of the 24 cosmic principles. And another view is that everything is made up of the 5 elements. Mahabhutani. So this all, everything that we see, including our body and mind also, is a composite entity. It's not one thing. And being a composite entity, it is sure to disintegrate into its components sooner or later and cease functioning. It is not real. It's not always there. So he says, what are you going to give up? Tvam Shuddhaha, you are pure consciousness. Kim Tyaktamicchasi, aspirant of Brahmajnana tries to reject things. This is not me, this is not me, this is not true, this is not true, like that one. What are you trying to give up? There is nothing at all to give up. Because what we are trying to give up, the world and the sense objects and the body, mind, everything, is all Sanghata. It's going to be this, not going to be there, it's not real at all. So there is nothing to give up. He says, Astavakra says to Janaka, you are free from attachment to anyone and anything. As you are pure, what is there for you to renounce? Dissolve the body-mind complex and enter into a state of dissolution, free from all limiting adjuncts, upadhis. Everything that is not the self, Atman, is called an upadhi. Upadhi means an adjunct, which is not intrinsic. How to understand the word upadhi? Let me give an example. Supposing you buy a cup of coffee in a Starbucks, and the coffee is given in a paper cup, and around the paper cup there is a thin cardboard sleeve, so that you don't feel the heat when you hold the cup. Now, what is the essential thing which you are buying? Coffee. But coffee cannot be given without a container. It has to have a container. So coffee cup is there, but it's not the real thing. This only is there for some time, serves a purpose and it goes away. After the coffee is taken, coffee cup is thrown away. And the coffee cup also has another upadhi, an outside thing to shield it from, make it not feel very hot. So these are all extra things which are there, but real thing is only the coffee. In the same way, in our personality, the real thing is only the Atman self. That's the only thing. Other things are there for some time, they appear to be there, they have a function and they disintegrate, they are thrown away. So there is no point in being attached to those things. They are Sangata. Therefore, something that is a collection or aggregation of many things held together, that is what the human personality is. This body is made up of so many different components. Mind also is not one thing. It has so many different functional components. So as long as something is a collection, a composite entity, consisting of many things held together, it will function for some time, it's going to go away, it's not everlasting. So we don't get attached to that one. And even before it goes out of existence, any Sangata begins to disintegrate. Earlier we have seen the 6 changes that happen to all beings. Apakshaya, after some time, degeneration sets in. There is beginning, birth, then there is existence for some time, astitva, janma, asti, then there is growth, vriddhi, and there it stays for some time. Then parinama, changes begin to appear. Changes are always happening, but they begin to appear in the human body after some time. And then apakshaya, degeneration sets in, and then vinasha, everything goes. So we are not that one. There is no point in being attached to them. It will come and go away. So that is the first instruction that Astavakra gives. Considering everything other than the self as a Sanghata, as a composite thing which is not going to stay together for a long time. Don't be attached to that one. Sanghata layam kuru. Then his second example he gives. Why or how to give up attachment to the world, all sense objects. The world is described as the foam or bubbles on the surface of water, ocean. Ocean is all water. On surface you see bubbles forming. This is called Budbuddha. Budbuddha means a foam made up of bubbles, air bubbles. So he says in the next word, in chapter 5, Astavakra says, Udeti bhavato vishvam varidhereva budbuddha iti jñatveva matmanam evameva layam raja. This Vishwa, this universe that we are seeing with the sense organs is a temporary thing, such as the collection of bubbles on the surface of water. And the bubbles are nothing but water itself. The bubbles are water. And some air is entrapped in each bubble. And how long does the bubble live? For a very short time. It forms from water, it stays in water, it dissolves into water. Water is only reality which is always there. Bubbles come and go. Their shapes or sizes are different. They stay for varying periods of time. Some bubbles burst immediately, some bubbles will stay for a long time. Eventually they all disappear and become one with the water from which they had formed in the first place. So this whole universe is the collection of bubbles on the surface of water. It is nothing other than the water. This universe is the same as Atman. Its world of names and forms are superimposed on the water, on the self, and we see different objects. What is the difference from one object between two objects? Name and form only. Substance is all the same. One substance of which everything is made in this universe. But names and forms are different, so we have different names to them. Everything is self alone. There is no second entity at all. But world is being seen just like the bubbles on surface of water with Buddha. Iti jnatva, knowing this one, the unsubstantial nature of this universe, which itself is nothing other than the self, with names and forms superimposed on the self. Don't be attached to that one. It's not going to be there. It's not real. That is second example that Astavakra gives. The bubbles are made of the same substance, namely water, as the ocean. They arise from the ocean. They are infinite in number and variety. How many bubbles? It's not possible to count. So many. And they stay for a short time and merge back into the ocean. In the same way, this whole physical universe, infinite as it appears to be, this whole universe arises from the self, Atman. It is sustained on the self, like bubbles stay on the water. Where else can they go? And after some time, they disappear and merge back into the source from where they came. This is what we study in the Upanishad. Taittiriya Upanishad, there is a very famous sentence. There, the teacher says to the student, that self, which we call Brahman or Atman in the Upanishads, is the only true reality. This world is something that emerges from it, arises from it, emanates from it, is sustained by it, and goes back and merges into the source from where it came. Yato va imani bhutani jayante. That's from which all the beings appear, emanate. Yena jatani jivanti. That by which the whole universe is supported. How are the bubbles supported? Because water is there. If water is not there, bubbles are not there. Bubbles are on the water. Yena jatani jivanti yat prayanti abhisammishanti. And the bubbles, what happens to them? They all burst and go back and become water, which they were all the time. The whole universe is like that. Only Atman is there. It appears to have so many different names and forms superimposed due to ignorance. And then the whole world disappears. Only Atman remains. That is this second example why we should not become attached to the world, including everything, including our body, mind, sense organs, sense object, other people, property, possessions, fame, position, power. They're all like the bubbles. They are there today. Next moment, they may not be there. Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam tadvad jivata machishaya chapalam. Shankaracharya says in the beautiful Bhajagovinda Stotram. Nalini dalagata jalamati taralam. Just like the bubble of water on the lotus leaf, it stays there, but it does not stick to it. It cannot stick to it. The lotus leaf never becomes really wet, though it is always in the water. So Brahmajnani appears to live in the world, but is never touched by the world. Nothing affects him. Then, the next example that Astavakra gives on becoming free from attachment to all sense objects is, that is the Sangata Buddha. Next one is Rajju Sarpa. He says, Pratyakshimapyavastutvad Vishwam nastyamale mayi anamale tvayi Rajju Sarpa eva vyaktam eva mevalayam vraja. This is a famous example that has come. Every place you see this Rajju Sarpa Nyaya, example of a rope being seen as a snake. There is only one thing, only rope is there. There are no two entities, rope and snake, only one. But it is being seen as something which it is really not. A rope is being seen as a snake because of semi-darkness. If there is bright light, you see rope as a rope. If there is total darkness, you don't see anything at all. But there is the twilight evening light, partially darkness, then rope appears as a snake to some people. In the same way, what we call universe, world, so real, we can dispute the reality of the world. Our body is real, our suffering is real, everything is real. So real it appears, but really it's only nothing but self itself on which the names and forms have been superimposed. So knowing this one, do not become attached to the world, to objects. Experiences and objects, become attached to them. You expect happiness from them. Really, it's not there at all. So in the next verse, chapter 5, Astavakra says, Pratyakshamapi avastutvad vishvam nasti amale tvayi. Vastu means substance, something that is real. Avastu means something that appears to be there but not substantial. That is not real. The world is like that, avastu. Amale tvayi nasti. Amala means immaculate, free from the three gunas, free from all limitations, all attributes. That is yourself. The world appears to be separate entity, but it's all within the self alone. Rajju sarpa eva. Just like a Rajju means a rope, sarpa means a snake. Rope appears as a snake to a person who is ignorant of the truth. And that appearance is only temporary. A rope has never become a snake. It is always only rope. There were no two things at all. But to see something as something else which it is not. That is ignorance. Knowing this one, knowing that the world is unreal, like the snake, reject its reality and don't become attached to the world or anything in the world. Our attachment to our bodies, our minds, our ideas, our property, possession, our fame, relatives, all of these things are to be given up. Reasoning in this way, this is all the self alone. Everybody, everything is the self alone, Atman alone. Only one thing is there. But we see that as many different things, each different from the other because of the superimposition of names and forms on the self. In the same way, the universe with infinite names and forms is superimposed on the pure self and is not real. Thus, rejecting the reality of the universe, become free from the upadhis. Upadhi means anything that is not intrinsic, is not real, but appears to be there. It's there for some time, it goes away, not permanent. Then the next example, next instruction, Astavakra says, how to become free from attachment to the world. We become attached to everything, or we become attached to our property, our money, our job, our family, our bodies and everything. How do we become free from attachment? One way that the aspirant should do, one thing the aspirant of Brahmajnana, self-knowledge must do, is to notice the changes that are happening in the whole world. Every moment the body is changing. From moment to moment we are not aware of the change, but if you see between two moments separated by some time, last year how I was, this year how I am, then we see the change. From today to tomorrow I don't see the change. It's happening so slowly, but every moment everything is changing. Those things that appear to be stable, unchanging, they're also changing. Like the Himalaya mountains, like the sun, all those things appear to be stable, unchanging, but everything in this universe is changing every moment. Anything that changes is not going to be real. So from moment to moment, everything is real. So our experiences are also like that. Sometimes you are happy, comfortable, nothing, you are not suffering from any problem, everything is going well. Next moment, the whole picture changes and suffering comes of some sort of other. That's the nature of this universe. Happiness, unhappiness, pain and pleasure, gain and loss, praise and blame. All these are inevitable in everybody's life. They come and go. The sign of wisdom is to not be affected by them, not be perturbed by them. This is the whole message of the Gita. Samatvam yoga vichyate. Sri Krishna says. Samatvam means equanimity. No matter what happens to the body, mind, world, other people, to my own body, I remain unaffected because they are changing things, they are not real. They are names and they are the self alone with names and forms superimposed on the self. So I am not going to be affected by it. To remain unaffected, unperturbed, when difficulties come, when suffering comes, when pain comes, when loss happens, when people blame, that is a virtue that an aspirant of Brahmajnana, self-knowledge, has to practice. And life gives us, every day we get some experience to test this one. How unaffected can you remain if this problem comes? So there is an opportunity for us to practice equanimity every day, every moment in our lives. Something changes, nothing is stable. I'm happy now, next moment something may happen, I become unhappy. That is the nature of this world. So to practice equanimity and to practice remaining unperturbed, even in the face of difficult circumstances, that is a virtue that we all have to practice. So Brahmajnani has that virtue. If there is a Brahmajnani, like Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi or some other Avadhuta, nothing bothers them. Even if people go and beat them up, it doesn't bother them at all. If they don't have anything to possess, even if there's something they have is taken away, it doesn't bother them at all. Whatever happens to the body, mind, that doesn't bother them at all. They learn to have practiced equanimity, the ability to remain unperturbed. And when the changes are happening, good and bad changes are happening in one's life. This is one of the main messages in the Bhagavad Gita. Many places in the Gita, we have been told by Bhagavan Sri Krishna to practice equanimity in the face of dualities. Dvandva, he calls them. Sri Krishna calls Dvandva means pair of two consisting of opposites. Dvandva means sometimes you are happy, unhappiness comes next moment. Sometimes something we gain, and next moment it will be lost. Sometimes people praise us, say people blame us, next moment. This is going to happen. It will happen to everybody. This is the nature of the world. Duality, dvandva. So in the Gita, Sri Krishna says, Nirdvandvo bhava. Become free from the pairs of opposites. That's what Swami Vivekananda said in his famous Song of Sannyasi. He says, heed then no more how body lives or goes, its task is done. Let karma float it down. Let one put garlands on, another kick this frame. Say not, no praise or blame can be, where praise or praised and blame or blamed are one. Thus be thou calm, sannyasi and bold, say, Om Tat Sat Om. A knower of the self, Brahmajnani, who is experiencing his divine nature every moment. For such a person, there is no pain, there is no pleasure, there is no blame, there is no praise, nothing affects. Heed then no more how body lives or goes. The body is only an upadhi, adjunct. It's not going to be there always. When it is there, it is changing every moment, and that's not I. I'm not the garment. I'm the Atman. I'm the person wearing the garment. If I think I'm the garment, then whatever happens to garment happens to me. I'll jump up and down. If the garment is painted green, do I become green? No. If the garment is torn into two pieces, am I torn into two pieces? No, I am separate from the garment. That's the experience of a Brahmajnani. All upadhis go through changes, including the body, mind, sense organs, everything, sense objects. So the Brahmajnani remains unaffected, unperturbed by the changes. Let one put garlands on, another kick this frame. Sri Ramakrishna was actually kicked by another priest. He was jealous. When Sri Ramakrishna was lying in a half-conscious mood, divine ecstasy, another priest, he came. He was jealous of Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna used to be, everybody used to call him Baba and look up to him for spiritual guidance. But that man, out of jealousy, he kicked Sri Ramakrishna with his foot. And there was a black mark that happened on his body. But Sri Ramakrishna never mentioned it to anybody. Any ordinary person would have reacted immediately, complaining to the authorities and everything. No, simply kept quiet. That is the ability to remain unperturbed, even in the case of severe difficulties. That is a hallmark, this quality of a Brahmajnani, because all these things are changing. No pain, no pleasure, no praise, no blame, no gain, no loss. That is another instruction that Astavakra gives. Practice equanimity under all circumstances, in success and failure. We study this instruction to practice equanimity in the Gita in many, many places, one of the main messages of the Gita. So that is another example, another instruction, how to remain unperturbed in the face of so many changes. Sometimes the changes are unpleasant and painful. This is how this Astavakra explains with 4 different examples how to become free from our attachment to body, mind, sense organs, property, possession, fame. None of these affects me. One example I give is everything is composite, sangata. Anything that is composite, but of more than one thing, is going to disintegrate and go away. The body is like that, mind is like that, world is like that, so don't be attached to it. Not permanent, always changing. Second thing is like the foam on the surface of water. A foam is nothing but water. It forms from the water, stays in the water and dissolves into the water. Whole world is like that. Only self is there. Water is always there. Foam is not always there. Comes and goes. So don't be attached to that one. Third example is given is, it's only an appearance. The world is an appearance, not absolutely real. Just like a snake is an appearance, is not there at all. But we see that one because of ignorance, and we are afraid. But really, if we look harder, closer, there is no snake, only rope was there. So the world is like that, appears to be so fascinating, so many interesting things, and pain and suffering, everything so fantastic. But all this is only like the snake perceived in the rope is unreal, seen in the self because of superimposition of names and forms and qualities onto the the name, form and quality of a snake are superimposed onto the rope, and we see the superimposed view, snake. But really there is only rope there. Really only Atman is there, only one. No, without a second, only that is there. But you are seeing so many different things, so many different people, good and bad, pain, suffering. It's all only appearance like Rajju Sarpa, appearance like a snake. Don't mistake them to be real. It's only appearance. Don't be attached to any of those things. Fourth example, fourth instruction, Astavakra gives is to practice equanimity. Change is essential in the world, inevitable in the world. Everything changes every moment. Something that we perceive as not changing also is changing. Everybody is changing every moment. So this change is constant. Don't be perturbed by the changes. Accept the changes. They come and go. Samatvam, practicing equanimity under all circumstances. Especially equanimity you have to practice in regard to our own life and experiences. Even if we don't do anything, changes happen. Like in the Gita, Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says that all the changes happen to the body and mind, but you are the Atman, you are not the body and the mind. Let changes happen, but you are not affected. You don't change. Atman does not change. There's a very nice verse in the Vivekachudamani. People suffer because of changes in our body. When a person is young and youthful, all the sense organs are very keen. They can see, eyes can see very well without help of glasses or anything. Ears can hear every sound without help of hearing aid. and all the sense organs are functioning efficiently, but person is young. Then what happens? After some time, these sense organs lose their ability to function efficiently. Ears cannot hear sound, eyes cannot see the sight. They're all there, but they lose their ability to function well. To whom do these changes happen? That question we have to ask. What we assume is, changes are happening to me. Changes are happening to the body, mind. But I put the I there, we think these changes are happening to me. If a person says, I cannot hear, I am a deaf person. But who is deaf? The ears cannot hear. It's a problem for the ear and the brain to convey the sound properly. But I am the Atman, I don't become deaf. Atman does not become deaf or blind or weak or old. No old age, no disease, no death for the Atman. I am that eternal, infinite reality, pure consciousness. But we take upon those properties, defects of the body, mind on ourselves, and we think I am suffering. If I have a headache, I say I have a headache. Your head is aching. I am not the head, I am not the body. If you have that knowledge, then headache doesn't bother me. Something changes that happens to the garment, if it happens, it does not bother me. I am the wearer of the garment, I am not the garment. That's what the example Sri Krishna gives in the second chapter of the Gita. A Jnani does not think that he is the body. Jnani thinks the body is like a garment which is there and it will go away, it will change. I remain unaffected by those changes. I am not the body. There is a nice verse in the Vivekachudamani where Shankara explains the defects in the body, such as blindness, inability to hear, deafness, all these things happen to the body and sense organs and not to the self. You are that self. The verse is Andattva mandattva patutva dharma saugunya vaigunya vashadhi chakshushaha badhirya mukatva sukhas padhirya mukatva mukhas tathaiva shrotradi dharma nachuveturatmanaha. Andattva means blindness. After some time, some people cannot see properly, you have to use glasses and macular degeneration, all those things will come. Andattva. Mandattva means unable to see clearly. Vision becomes blurred. Mandattva. Patutva means very good vision, 20/20 vision or better. To whom these changes happen? To the eyes. Shrotradi dharma. Chakshuhu. Eyes go through the changes. Eyes combination with brain, the whole hearing, seeing mechanism, they become defective. But the Atman does not become blind. Mandattva, patutva dharma, saugunya vaigunya vashad chakshusha. Chakshusha means eyes. Because changes in the eyes, seeing instrument, changes in the ear, hearing instrument, changes in sense of touch, taste and smell, they all happen to the sense organs, not to the self. Shrotradi dharma, hearing, shrotra means the ears, they change, eyes change, eyesight changes. Natu veturatmanaha, Atman does not change. So a person remains, Brahmagani remains totally unaffected by whatever changes happen to the body and the mind. I am not that. I am not the eyes, I am not the hands. That's what Shankara says in his very famous Nirvana Shatkam. I am not the mind, I am not the body, I am not the sense organs, I am not this, I am the Atman. Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. If Brahmagani has that experience, then he or she remains totally unperturbed by any changes that happen to the world, to oneself, or to the world. That is the fourth example of how to become free from attachment to all the upadhis, body, mind, world, that Astavakra gives. When Astavakra says all these things, Janaka comes up with a reply. Astavakra says, don't be attached to the body, mind, sense organ, property, etc., the world, etc. Janaka says, what is there to give up or to be attached to. The instruction is don't be attached to all these things. But there is no other things. What is there to be attached to? To accept or to reject? That's even a higher state. If a person is only Atman, not aware of the world at all, then there is nothing to be attached to, nothing to be dissociate from, nothing to accept, nothing to reject. This is a very clear, nice argument that Janaka gives in response to Astavakara's instruction that you become detached from all these things. Janaka goes one step forward and says, for a knower of Brahman, for a Brahmajnani, there is nothing to give up and nothing to hold on to. For an ordinary person, there are things to be given up. Instruction to ordinary person seeking self-knowledge is give up attachment to property, money. Don't say your money, don't say your house, give up attachment. Accept the Atman only. Something to be given up, something to be attached to, something to hold on to Atman. That's for whom? Ordinary person who does not have self-knowledge. For a knower of the self, only Brahman is there. There is no second entity. Ekameva advitiyam. If there is nothing second entity besides the self, what is there to accept or reject? Acceptance and rejection can come only if there is something else besides the self. But for a Brahmajnani, there is nothing, only self is there. To what am I going to be attached? What should I dissociate myself from? Nothing. So that is Janaka's answer to Astavakara's question, become free from attachment to the upadhis like that. So he gives an example here. Janaka says, Akashavad anantoham gatavat prakritam jagat iti jnanam tathaitasya natyago nagraho layaha. Tyaga means detachment. We are told to become detached from all the upadhis, body, mind, sense, organ, property, position. Do not be attached to them, we are told. But for a Brahmajnani, there is no such thing, only Atman is there. There is nothing to be detached from. Nagraha, nothing to accept. Natyaga, nothing to give up. Layaha, nothing to dissolve. Only Atman is there. The state of unitary consciousness is really our true inherent state. We are that even now. Though we are steeped in duality, or we are pursuing duality, I am separate, you are separate, this is my body, your body, my house, your house, this is what we are experiencing it. The truth is, even now only Brahman is there. What you are seeing as all these innumerable objects, the world, really just like the foam, just like the movie characters on the screen, they are really not there. They appear to be real. So that is what Janaka says. This Brahmajnani also has a body, because as long as prarabdha is there, the body has to function. Certain amount of karma has been allotted to the body to be worked out in this lifespan, and when that karma, prarabdha karma is exhausted, the body stops functioning. But until then, Brahmajnani also has a body. He is a Jivan Mukta, liberated while yet living. So, if changes happen to the body, every moment it is changing. An ordinary person reacts to the changes. Some good things happen, I become very happy. Some bad things happen, I become very sad, angry. So an ordinary person reacts to all these changes that are inevitably happening to the body, mind. Every moment it is changing, every moment the world is changing. People are today they behave one way, tomorrow they will behave in a different way. Changes are inevitable. While an ordinary person becomes affected by those changes, a Brahmajnani remains unaffected by all these changes. How can a Brahmajnani remain unaffected when the body becomes sick? When I have a headache, a toothache, a stomachache, I suffer, I go to doctor, I take medicine, I scream. Brahmajnani remains unaffected. How can it be like that? So one way to explain how a Brahmajnani remains totally unaffected by changes that happen to the body-mind is explained by Shankaracharya in the Ekachudamani. Janaka also gives the same example. Now imagine there is a pot, earthen pot, 1 gallon capacity. and there is no water in it, only air is there, only space is there. Now, the space inside the pot is same as space outside the pot. Space cannot be divided into parts, all one continuum. Space is one continuum. Space in this hall, outside the hall, outer space, beyond the planets, beyond the solar system, space is everywhere. Everywhere it is there, no limit to that one. All only one space only. But the space appears to have been divided into different parts because of the container in which it exists. A space in the pot, 1 gallon pot, appears to be 1 gallon capacity. If the space is in a green glass cup, space in the glass cup appears to be green, space can never become green. It has no color, it has no shape, it has no size. Space does not become green. In the same way, this body-mind is compared to the pot. Content is the Atman, pure consciousness. Whatever happens to the container does not affect the content, which is space. If the pot is painted green, 1 gallon earthen pot, empty pot, the space inside the pot does not become green. It remains same, colorless. Atman is like that. I am that Atman. No matter what changes happen to the body, mind, I am unaffected. So this is nicely explained in one verse in the Vivekachudamani. The Atmagani knows that he is the Atman, not the body mind. So whatever changes happen to the body mind, good or bad, pain or pleasure, does not affect the Brahmajnani. So he says, a very nice verse, Jalevapi sthalevapi lutatu esha jadatmakaha na aham vilipye tad dharmaihi ghata dharmair nabho yata. You get the same example in the Vivekachudamani. Ghata means a pot. Earthen pot or any other, made of any material, pot is there. I am like the space in the pot, Brahmajnani said. The body is compared to a pot, body mind. So I am the Atman in this body mind. I am not the body mind. I am not the pot. I am the space. So whatever happens to the pot, whatever changes happen to the pot, they do not affect the space inside the pot. So I, the Atman, pure consciousness in the body, remain totally unaffected no matter what changes happen to the body and the mind. Somebody calls me a fool, I don't become upset. Somebody praises me, puts a garland, it does not affect me. I remain calm, unperturbed under all circumstances. How? He says in this sloka, Shankara says, Esha jadatmakaha. This body is inert. Even now it is inert, appears to be functioning alive because of the presence of the prana shakti and the divine presence. Even now it is an alert material only, body, made of so many different things, composite. Yesha jadatmakaha, this inert body, jalaivapi lotatu, may it fall in water, sthalaivapi lotatu, may it fall on the ground. That means whatever happens to the body does not affect tad dharmaihi, by the property, status, condition of the body, aham na vilipye, I remain unaffected, untouched. Changes are happening in the world, nothing, I am not the world, I am not the body mind, I am the Atman, no change for the Atman. Atman is pure consciousness, how can it change? Infinite expanse of pure consciousness, attributeless. So that way, Janaka explains, for a Brahmajnani, there is nothing to dissociate from, give up, nothing to accept, is always one and the same, unaffected by any changes, infinite, eternal, pure consciousness. That's what we all are even now. But that ignorance of our true nature is what makes us think we are the body-mind. And whatever happens to body-mind affecting us, we suffer and enjoy. So the aim of life is to give up attachment to the body and the mind, seeing them as objects, temporary objects, collection of various things. They change, they come and go. But the Atman does not come and go, there is no birth, no death, no old age, no disease for the Atman. I am that one. All this is nicely explained in one simple shloka in the Gita, in the second chapter. Second chapter, shloka number 20. There Bhagavan Sri Krishna explains, who are you? He says to Arjuna, you think you are the body? Or name your Arjuna, your Pandava brother? No, you are the Atman. And since you are the Atman, you are not the body-mind, then nothing happens to you when the body-mind goes through changes. So he says that nicely in one sloka, 220, second chapter, sloka 20. There he describes the Atman, which we truly are. Najayate mriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuyaha ajaha nityataha ayam puranaha shashvataha nahanyate hanyamane sharire. Very nice verse. Simple. All these things that Janaka Astavakra are describing are in 1-2 lines in the Gita. Nicely. There Bhagavan Sri Krishna says to Arjuna, this Atman, najayate, it has no birth. Always body has birth. Namriyate, body has death, but Atmanna has no death. It's pure consciousness. Anadi madhyantarahita. Anadi madhya, anta. There is no beginning, there is no middle, there is no end to the pure consciousness, Atman. Body has beginning, middle and end. You are not that one. Jayate namriyate va kadachit nayam bhutva bhavita va na bhuya. It was never absent in the past, it will never be absent in the future. Atman. Body was absent in the past. Before I was born, the body was not there. After I die, the body will not be there. But Atman is always there. Continuous, infinite existence, eternal. Ajaha, it is birthless. Nityaha, it is eternal. Shashvata, it is permanent, not changing. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. 220 in the Gita. Sharire hanyamane, when the body dies, is going to, sooner or later, before that it goes through so many changes, then it goes out of existence. Hanyamane sharire atmana hanyate. Atman does not die, and you are that tattvamasi. This is the benefit of studying books like Astavakra Samhita. As you saw before, Sri Ramakrishna made Swami Vivekananda narrate read this book only to him. And other disciples, he did not recommend this book. Abhedananda Swami studied this book, Astavakra Samhita. But it was Swamiji alone who was told by Sri Ramakrishna to study it in behind closed doors. So this means, if we practice this detachment even to some extent, if we don't become Brahmagyanis tomorrow or next day, next month, at least it gives us some detachment. The body is having somebody's praises or blame, somebody's taken away. It bothers us less and less. As long as we are body conscious, some problem, pain will be there, but it will be easier to separate ourselves, distance ourselves from the body, mind, and the world, what other people, and think of ourselves as the Atman, as the self. Then changes do not affect us that much. Changes will happen in the world, but they don't affect us one way or the other. Let one put garlands on, another kick this frame, say not. No praise or blame can be. Somebody praises, somebody blames you. Who is all those things? Who is the praiser? Who is the blamer? The self is all in all. Only one self is there. No, thou art that, and we are that one. Sannyas in bold say, Om Tat Sat Om. So let us stop here. The next time we shall continue Astavakra's teaching on how to what practice is to be done to become a Brahmagyani. So I shall close with a prayer. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramayah Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschid Dukkha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, may all be happy. May all be free from afflictions and diseases. May all know, realize and practice what is noble, dharmic and auspicious. May no one be subject to any kind of suffering. Om peace. May there be peace and joy in our hearts. Adhyatmika Shanti. May there be peace and harmony amongst all beings. Adhibhautika Shanti. And may there be peace everywhere in nature. Adidaivika Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Sarvam Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. All of you stay well, and I will see you next week.